quite complex. It's got lots of steps, and we end up having to use the quadratic formula at the end. Yay! Okay, so we want to know m, which kind of feels like it's the number of terms, but it's not. Just a reminder with our friend sigma notation, your number of terms, I'm just going to make a little note on the side here. So my number of terms is actually top minus bottom plus 1, right? So it's actually m minus the 0 plus 1, which is actually m plus 1. So I can get the number of terms, but what I need to remember is that the number of terms is actually m plus 1, okay, and not m. Okay, so what do? Well, often with sigma notation, it's really helpful to start expanding stuff and just get the series, because you need A, which you don't have, and you need D, which you don't have. Okay, so I'm going to just work out the series by subbing in 0 into I, and then 1 into I, and 2 into I, and so on, and get a sense of it, okay? So when I sub in 0 over there, I'm going to have 1 minus 3 times 0. So my series is going to be, with that as 0, it's going to be 1. And with I as 1, I'm going to have 1 minus 3 times 1. So I'm going to end up with negative 2. And then it's going to keep going. Okay, so I'm going to have negative 5, and so on like that. What's my nth term going to be? My nth term is going to be when that is m. Okay, so it's going to be 1 minus 3m, and if I add all those up, I'm going to get negative 671. Okay, do I have some of the variables that I'm going to need for my sum formula? I do. I've got a is 1, I've got d, let's just have a look, minus 3 over there, minus 3 over there. Just take care when it's negative. Sometimes our brains don't like negatives and they just make them positive. So yeah, that can happen. So d is negative 3. And I have my number of terms. Okay, so what I know from all of this here is I know that the sum to m plus 1, which is my number of terms, the sum to m plus 1 is negative 671. Okay, so when I fill this into the formula, when I sub it in, I've got everything I need. It's that is now n. Okay, so I know that my Sn is negative 671, and I know that n is equal to m plus 1. I know that's really kind of upsetting that you have to use variables with variables, but that's what makes a question like this a little bit tricky. Okay, so now I'm going to sub in to the formula. Let me talk you through this. So there's my Sn. My n was m plus 1, so there it goes. Okay, 2 times a, and then remember it was n minus 1 d. So remember n was actually m plus 1, so that's my n minus 1, and then the negative 3. This is, as you see, going to simplify really nicely. Okay, so I'm going to have negative 671. I'm going to keep that there for now and just simplify this big bracket. Okay, that's clearly just 2. And then this is actually, hello, m plus 1 minus 1. It's just m, right? So actually what's happening here is this all clarifies down to negative 3m. Okay, I'd like to point out here that you're going to end up, when you multiply in, obviously that's not advisable, I'd rather multiply the 2 there, is I'm going to end up with quadratic. The reason I can see it coming is because I'm going to have m times m, I'm going to have a square. I know that I'm going to end up with 2 answers because it's quadratic, and then one of them's not going to work. Okay, so let's just go a few more steps here. Remember I said that it's a good idea to multiply that on that side first. I end up with my negative 1342 there, and then I'm going to have my m plus 1. I'm just going to bracket that because then you can see what's happening. Okay, I can multiply that out, get that one on that side, use the quadratic formula, and carry on from there. Okay, so what I'm going to have here, if I stick that on that side, is I'm going to have 2m, multiplying them, 2m minus 3m squared plus 2 minus 3m plus my 1342. I'm not even going to attempt to factorize this one. Okay, if I tidy up those, I get negative 3m squared. Those give me negative m, and those two will give me the 1344. You can probably see why I don't want to factorize that. It actually does work out, but it's going to be a whole lot easier if you use the quadratic formula at this point. I'm not going to go over that in this video. That is for, if you're unsure how to use the quadratic formula, please check out my grade 11 videos on that. But here, I'm just going to tell you what the answers are. Okay, I'm out of space, so I'm going to put them on this side. So my answers, I'm going to get out 2. Okay, I'm going to get out m is 21, and I'm going to get out m is 21, 3 recurring. Okay, so 21 and a third. Obviously, m can't be that. Okay, so that has to be crossed through, and that will be my answer.